hello everyone, and welcome to Sidereal Insights Astro Update for September 9th, 2019. I'm 𝘱𝘍𝘢. I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystic Physick Astrology, and I'm here with the broadcast to kind of help you get an idea of what to expect for the upcoming 2 weeks in terms of sidereal transits. So we're just going to be looking at what the planets are doing from a Western sidereal perspective as they transit the heavens in the next 2 weeks. So welcome. If you need to look up your sidereal sign placements, I have a handy dandy online calculator that you can use for free online at the website. I'm going to just drop the link to that in the comments real quick here as soon as I get the video loaded. And if you have questions as we move through today's broadcast, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. Let me know what your questions are and we can answer them as we go along. But there is the chart calculator if you need that, and you might. With today's broadcast, we're going to be talking about some planetary sign ingresses. We're going to be talking about some eclipse degrees from like the remaining eclipse activity lingering kind of from July. So you might want to have your chart handy. So really the purpose of the broadcast is to kind of provide guidance for you on how you can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way, so that you can be responsive to your transits rather than reactive to what's going on around you. So if we're looking ahead, you can anticipate, you know what to expect, you can understand how best to use those planetary energies to your advantage, and that's really the idea. So thank you for watching. I want to welcome you to the broadcast and invite you to like it, share it with a friend, tag someone if you know someone who might be interested in what we're talking about today. You can also follow Mystic Physick Astrology on Facebook, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you don't ever miss one of our updates. But thank you and welcome to the broadcast. So today we're going to be talking about, I'm going to drop a link, that's to the YouTube channel if you want to subscribe, and if you click the little notification bell icon when you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get notified every time we upload a broadcast to the channel. But today we're talking about, we're going to recap where we're at with current retrograde activity. We've had some planetary retrogrades come to an end. We've had some new ones start. So there's a little bit of shift going on right there. We have had a crazy party of personal planets moving through the sign of Leo. And we're about to, as September moves on, we're about to transition into Virgo season, if you will. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming full moon in Aquarius that we'll be doing our live stream event for coming up in the Sidereal Insights astrology community here on Facebook. And so if you want to join us for that, be sure to join the Sidereal Insights community on Facebook, and you can participate live in the full moon releasing that we're going to be doing. But first, let's recap where we're at. Current transits, current retrogrades. We have Saturn and Pluto still retrograde in Sagittarius. I say still, I'm feeling this one personally, so it's dragging on. We have Neptune retrograde in Sidereal Aquarius. We have Jupiter having stationed direct in Scorpio earlier in August. So this was a several month long retrograde that we finally are feeling Jupiter moving forward in his territory. We have Uranus stationed direct the same day that Jupiter stationed, or Uranus stationed retrograde, excuse me, the same day that Jupiter stationed direct. And so we have that switch over of planetary energies between the two of them. Uranus is going to be retrograde through early January. So keep that in mind, especially if you have Aquarius rising or Aquarius sun sign. You're going to be feeling that personally. The rest of us need to be looking at, where do we have Aries and where do we have Aquarius in our sidereal natal charts, because that's where we will feel Uranus's retrograde, is through the house that he's in and through the house that he rules in our own personal chart. So you want to have a look at that. And then we have another change coming up here in the near future, and I'm so grateful for this. We have Saturn about to station direct. I have Capricorn sun, and so I can't wait for Saturn to get his butt in gear. But in terms of the retrograde activity, what I like to do is kind of recap how you can use it, how you can tap into it, because some of these retrogrades do last for several months and you can employ them strategically. Uranus retrograde, hold on just a moment, I'm going to shut this door. It is finally not a bazillion degrees outside at my house, so we can have the windows open, except that there's street sweepers, you know. Anyway, so in terms of how we can use these retrogrades strategically, let's talk about the latest to join the party, Uranus retrograde. So Aries is, of course, the sign of exploration, the sign of forging new paths into unknown territory, right? Uranus, as a planetary influence, grants insights, sudden insights. He grants eureka moments. He's responsible for that type of sudden just stroke of genius, that sudden realization. He's also responsible for sudden changes in fortune, unexpected events, things like accidents. So, I mean, it can be positive influence, it can be a not so positive influence, but it's these types of sudden things that Uranus is responsible for triggering. And so when he is retrograde in the sign of the self, those types of insights, those types of aha moments that are coming, they can be shockingly personal in nature. They can be insights about our own self and about our own, potentially our own behavior, our own attitudes, our own beliefs and notions, our own behaviors. I think I just said that. But what it does is it presents a real opportunity for kind of inner exploration, really, in terms of our own behavior and those surprising realizations around that can come up around extremes of selfishness versus selflessness. And that tendency, that trend is likely to be active from when he stationed retrograde August 11th through early January. January 10th, he'll station direct again. So watch for that and kind of see how these things play out with yourself, keeping in mind that the beginning of the year, early January, is traditionally a time for turning over a new leaf in terms of behavior or in terms of efforts that we're wanting to make towards our own goals and ambitions, either in life in general or at least for the coming year. So you can use these upcoming months of Uranus retrograde to kind of really do some preliminary work about where do you need to make those changes. And then as we prepare to move into a new year, you can leverage that new year opportunity of turning over a new leaf to really make a committed press towards those personal changes, those personal turning over of new leaves, right? I've got a couple of folks on. It's good to see you, Kathleen and Christina. If you have questions at all about what we're talking about today, let me know in the comments. I dropped the chart calculator in, I think it's the very first comment as you scroll through them. If you need to look up your sidereal natal chart, go ahead and use that. You'll get a free chart. But what you're really looking for is where is the sun sign, and it might be different from your tropical sun sign. And you're looking at where is the ascendant, and that might also be different. While we're exploring retrograde activity, so I've been talking about using Saturn's retrograde as an opportunity to address unmet or outstanding commitments and obligations. And his retrograde is about to come to a close. He's going to station direct on the 18th of September. So you've got this like last few 10 days where you can make a final push towards that. You can make a final press towards wrapping up anything that you have outstanding where you know you have an obligation or a commitment to someone else that you need to meet. Especially in terms of either your Sagittarius house, because that's the house that Saturn is currently transiting, or you can explore it in terms of Aquarius or Capricorn houses in your sidereal natal chart, because those would be the two houses that we would give Saturn rulership of, Capricorn especially, and then we of course consider him a co-ruler of Aquarius. So those are the areas of the chart that you really want to kind of take a closer look at in terms of Saturn about to make a change in orbital speed and direction, not really, but from our perspective here on Earth. Pluto's retrograde. This is an opportunity, as we've been talking about, for deep inner healing and transformation. And so that's another one where you can explore either the Sagittarius house, because that's where Pluto is currently retrograde, or you can explore your Scorpio house, Scorpio being the sign that we give Pluto rulership of. So in terms of those two houses in your sidereal natal chart, we're using the 𝘱𝘭𝘢𝘍𝑜𝘍 zodiac here. You can really kind of drill down deep and look for opportunities for making those types of transformative changes in your life through looking for ways to heal any wounds that you may have been carrying with you that have gone unrecognized. These are probably going to be pretty deep-seated wounds. Sometimes they're psychological in nature. Pluto, we give him rulership over the psychological domain. But this can be really helpful if you're willing to make that effort and take that journey. Neptune retrograde. Neptune has a tendency to reveal things that have been kept hidden from us or secret from us. So watch for revelations to come between now and say late November while he's retrograde, especially in the houses where you find Pisces and Aquarius in your sidereal natal chart. Neptune's retrograde in Aquarius, and so he might be bringing information to light related to your Aquarius house, but he has rulership over Pisces. And so while he's retrograde, you may have Pisces matters come up where information that you weren't aware of or things that you weren't aware of are finally coming to your attention or coming to light for you. And these are things that can make a difference in how you choose to move forward in those parts of your life. So that's where I'd really kind of have you key into the Neptune retrograde is Pisces and Aquarius. Hi, Gia. It's good to see you. So Neptune's retrograde, I mean, aside from the fact that he reveals information, it's also a really good opportunity to kind of reconnect with spirit, reconnect with the divine guidance in your life, and to reconnect with your inner self and kind of dig into unconscious beliefs that you're carrying around, unconscious motivations that you might have, and take a closer look at whether those beliefs are really serving you and whether or not those hidden motivations that you might be uncovering can teach you something about yourself that would be valuable to you moving forward. Okay, so in terms of retrograde activity, that's kind of where we are. Just in this interesting transitional period where we have some retrogrades coming to a close and some starting over this series of weeks. And then we also have, in terms of change and how we experience change, we also have the July eclipse season coming to an end. And can I say not a moment too soon? Because really, folks, I'm tired of talking about it. Eclipses can have an effect for up to 2 months before they happen to 2 months after. And so this is a window of about 5 months now where we've been talking about the July eclipses and how we can be feeling them. And the folks who are just kind of on that last lingering edge of who might be impacted by them need to keep an eye on dates coming up the 13th and 14th of September and possibly the 17th of September. And this is specifically for folks who have a planet or point at or near 29 degrees of a fire or air sign. So we're talking about Sagittarius, Leo, Aries, or when we're talking about fire signs, and Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius when we're talking about air signs. So these are the folks who are most directly affected by, this would be the July 16th eclipse that we had in, I believe, in Sagittarius. This is the final few days where those folks who have not yet, or maybe still be waiting to hear some final news related to the eclipse series, where that could potentially come up. So this is the smallest fraction of folks who are affected by this particular eclipse, but it's also the last of the effect that we're really going to be feeling for the near future in terms of eclipses. And then we'll have a little bit of a break from eclipse activity for a couple of months, at least until late October. And that's when we'll start feeling the first influences of the January eclipses, which will be the 4th set in the Sagittarius Gemini series that's actually going to culminate at mid-year next year. And then finally, we're past that stretch of eclipse activity, thankfully. So right now, we're midway through Leo season. Well, more than midway through Leo season in terms of the sun's transit of Leo. And we're more than midway through Leo season in terms of Venus and Mercury's transit of Leo, because they're both about to move into the sign of Virgo coming up here in the next couple of days. We still have Mars in Leo through September 25th. So we're kind of at this transitional stage where we're not quite done with Leo from a solar perspective, but some of the faster moving planets are ready to move on to Virgo. So we're going to have this feeling of more of a kind of mixed energy than what we felt for much of September so far, and even for much of late August, where we had the Sun and Mars and Venus and Mercury all in Leo, just really kind of emphasizing that solar Leo energy, right? With Venus moving into Virgo, this is happening tomorrow. She'll make her move. So this is a time when we can more naturally take pleasure in everyday life, right? We might be more appreciative of the beauty of everyday life, the mundane beauty of life, right? Or we might look to stimulate ourselves by seeking indulgence in our lived experiences. So this is a time when you can, you know, maybe you are spending more time finding ways to add beauty and pleasure and enjoyment to your everyday life, to add things that you enjoy into your daily schedule. This might be a time when you are more interested in, say, like, finding enjoyment through foods and through cooking, through things like this, like everyday activities. Gia says, I missed the beginning, but I feel that the transformation healing is happening for me right now. And that can very likely be the case. You can, so Gia, if you know your sidereal natal chart, or if you use the calculator that I posted to pull it up, if you look off to the right sidebar on the website, I think on that same page, you can see where the current, where the planets are currently according to the sidereal zodiac. And so if you locate those points as you're in the chart, as you're looking at your natal chart, you can get a sense of whether some current planetary transit is touching off something in your own natal chart. And that is very likely what you're feeling. And then if you happen to have, so this is kind of an interesting point to know, if you happen to have a very strong affinity due to your own natal chart with a particular planet, as that planet slows down and becomes stationary, whether it's about to move retrograde or whether it's about to move direct, doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters in terms of the effect that it'll have, but as it's slowing down and coming to that stationary position, that planet becomes very strong and its effects become very intense. And if it's a planet that has significance for you personally in your chart, you will tend to feel those planetary stations really strongly. If a planetary station, if the degree where a planet is stationing as it changes from direct to retrograde orbit or vice versa, if that degree and sign are relevant for you, you'll also tend to feel that planetary station a lot more strongly. And that can explain why some of us do have much more intense reactions than other folks as we see planets shift from retrograde to direct and back again, right? So that's where it becomes important to be familiar with your own natal chart. And if you're not familiar, that calculator is always there. You can always pull it up ahead of time as we get into the broadcast. But definitely, whenever you have questions like that come up during the broadcast, let me know, because I'm happy to touch on anything that you might need clarification on. I hope that helps. So Venus moves tomorrow. And then the very next day, we have Mercury moving into Virgo, right? So Mercury, this is his home sign, one of his two home signs. This is taking place September 11th. And what that'll do is kind of shift the subject to daily life, to routines, to schedules, to details, to planning and organizing and thinking ahead. And so this is a really fantastic opportunity while we have Mercury in Virgo. It's about a 3.5 week long transit to make efforts in that direction, to really sit back and take a closer look at your schedule, at your planning calendar. What do you have coming up? What's on the docket? Do you need to make any adjustments or any tweaks? If you're a sidereal Virgo, Gia, then this is a particularly important transit for you. So here's something that we don't talk a lot about on this broadcast. So, but chart rulers, right? So So we look to the chart ruler to be the planet that has the most influence. And if there's no planet that has greater influence than other planets in a very clear, easy to point out way, then by default, we would look to what planet rules the sign of the ascendant. And we would call that planet your chart ruler. Now, you might be speaking of Virgo, being sidereal Virgo as being your sun sign, or you might be speaking of it being your ascendant sign. I'm not quite sure. People have different approaches. But if that's the case, say if Virgo is your ascendant in a sidereal zodiac, with Mercury being a planetary ruler, wherever Mercury is by transit is pointing to where your attention is currently focused. And so in the situation where Virgo is the sign, you're going to be very focused on things that are really personally relevant. You're going to be focused on your own personal life. You're going to be focused on your own roles, matters that are relevant to you much more than matters that might be relevant to other people around you. Virgo is very much about getting into the details. Virgo is very much about paying attention to the smaller stuff and much less about the big picture stuff. And so this is a time when you could really be focused on planning, on what's your path forward, how are you organizing your time, how are you organizing your resources, what kind of strategies are you employing around what it is you want to accomplish, what you want to achieve, what it is you need to get done, those sorts of things. And so while we have Mercury in Virgo in the next 3.5 weeks, you'll find that your attention is very heavily there, but that also makes it a very ideal time to be engaged in those sorts of activities. And with Venus there, what's nice is you'll have her support in being able to put together that plan and make any tweaks to your schedule that you might need to make right now, and have them be beneficial ultimately in the long run. Okay. And then coming up closer to mid-month, we're going to have the sun move into Virgo as well. And so then you'll have that solar energy helping to kind of revitalize and bring some energy to activities of that house as well, which will be really helpful. We have the full moon in Aquarius coming up on the 14th. Gia says, yes, definitely all those things you mentioned are where my attention is at. Well, good. It's helpful for you, and take advantage of it while you have that energy there supporting you is really my best advice. The full moon, this particular full moon, so full moons are about culminations, right? They're about endings. They're about finishing things up, wrapping things up, things coming to a head or coming to a crisis point, because it's when the sun and moon are at opposition, right? Whenever we have an opposition, that really can kind of trigger a crisis point. In terms of this particular full moon, it's in Aquarius. And so what I really like about that is that any solutions that we're likely to come to in terms of what's taking place around this full moon could be really quite ingenious. They could be really quite inventive. They could be radically forward thinking, and that can really be beneficial in terms of problem solving and in terms of being able to move forward, right? The flip side is that collectively, because full moons tend to make us kind of impulsive, right? They tend to make us behave really weird. So collectively, we're going to be more impulsive. We're going to be much more unpredictable. We're going to be much more reactionary. We're going to be erratic. We're going to be, like I said, unpredictable. And so keep aware of this tendency, and I would say for about 3 days before to about 3 days after the full moon, not only to be present in yourself, but it's going to be present in the people around you. And so do your best to be patient with the world and to recognize that if people around you are behaving in ways like that really doesn't make sense, oh my God, I wouldn't have expected that kind of a reaction from someone, or oh my gosh, someone has really just been impulsive or flown off the handle or what have you, just be aware that that's going to be a tendency that's present, because that's the predominating energy that we're all navigating, we're all moving through. And it's not just going to be in the people that are around you, it's going to be reflected in yourself too. So if you're struggling against this level of unpredictability in life, just know that when other people are unpredictable and impulsive around you, you're much more likely to struggle to accommodate that behavior in your life. And so just try to take a deep breath, try to be okay with not knowing, try to be okay with unpredictable reactions, unpredictable events. Try to be okay with sudden changes to plans, to just kind of anything, because that's what we're navigating. And the more you resist unpredictable change, the more you resist impulsive behavior from others, the more you resist that kind of reactionary tendency that a full moon in Aquarius can bring out in all of us collectively, the more you're going to struggle to move comfortably through the new moon. Or excuse me, the full moon. And so instead, what I would really kind of encourage you to do is instead invite that energy in, invite it to show you those new and ingenious and inventive ways of dealing with whatever it is you have on your plate now, because that can help you move forward a little more comfortably, a little more smoothly, even though things might be changing somewhat suddenly around you. Okay. The day after, I also want to call out September 15th, we have a Mercury-Venus conjunction. And of course, that's going to happen in Virgo because both of those planets have just moved into Virgo. This is September 15th. It's really kind of a special energy when Mercury and Venus meet up. And so this particular day, what I want to call out, we have the Mercury-Venus conjunction, and then we have a Mars opposition to Neptune. And Neptune, of course, can trigger confusion, right? He can trigger misunderstandings. He can trigger a lack of clarity. And so when he's opposing Mars, we might not know what action is the best action to take. There may be some confusion, some lack of clarity. There may be some misunderstanding. These things could really trigger some frustration in us. They could really trigger conflict in terms of how we react to or how we deal with that uncertainty or with that confusion or any misunderstandings or miscommunications that might arise. However, that Mercury-Venus conjunction that we have, on the other hand, can help us sort those matters out with relative ease. So if you find that the Mars-Neptune opposition is throwing stuff up for you, try to fall back on active listening principles, nonviolent communication principles. Anything that can help facilitate harmonious communication is a tool to help you move through that in a way that kind of facilitates cooperation, that facilitates joint efforts and working together, especially in terms of partnership matters. Okay. The sun moves into Virgo, like I was saying. That's going to happen on the 18th. That's the exact same day that Saturn stations direct. So this could be a significant day for folks. It could be a significant day, especially for Capricorn and Aquarius sun or Capricorn and Aquarius rising signs. So pay attention, September 18th. That's a 5-month-long retrograde that we've been dealing with Saturn in Sidereal Sagittarius. And so what happens, practical considerations will come into focus. We can begin to make faster progress towards our higher aspirations, things that we've really been wanting to make forward progress on for the last 4 or 5 months or so, but we may have felt limited or blocked, or we may have been dealing with obstacles of some sort. So what will happen as Saturn stations direct, folks with Capricorn, Aquarius, Sun, and Rising sign, like I was saying, and folks who, or wherever you happen to have Saturn, Sagittarius, or Capricorn, or Aquarius in your natal chart, look to those areas of life. You'll start to see a little bit easier forward motion as we move through Saturn stationing direct. So obstacles that you have been dealing with for the last several months may finally seem to clear away. Restrictions may lift if you've been dealing with restrictions that have been preventing you from moving forward or from being able to make progress, especially in those houses that I just called out, the ones that are ruled by Capricorn, Aquarius, or Sagittarius in your sidereal natal chart. So watch for those areas. In terms of announcements, so stay tuned for news and updates on the 2020 Ultimate Astrological Planner. I'm putting together a preview. We're putting together some new changes this year, and it's very kind of exciting. So I want to get a preview together for you. We're a little bit late getting this rolled out this year, but we'll have some fun new features in the planner rolled out this year, and we'll also be able to offer some new ways for you to customize your planner, including customizing it for your preferred time zone, which is not something that we've been able to offer in the past. So no matter where you live, if you want to have your planner set up for the time zone where you live in the world, you can do that. And then we'll have the option for you to be able to combine your personal best days for luck, love, and business with the best days for luck, love, and business by transit in the same planner, which previously we've not been able to do. So some pretty sweet changes, and I want to have a big shout out and thank you to 𝘱𝘭𝘢𝘠𝘭𝘆 from he's the creator of Parashar's Light Vedic astrology software. He's the one who's helping us make these changes possible. And so thanks very, very much to Michiel for helping bring these exciting new changes to the Ultimate Astrological Planner. If you have not yet read the September overview and short reports at the website, you'll want to be sure to go and read those. And then finally, join me Friday the 13th. Yay! A weird day. Friday the 13th. We're going to have our full moon in Aquarius guided releasing practice at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And folks, I think I finally have this down. 2:30 a.m. British Summer Time and 1:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Summer Time. That's going to happen in the Sidereal Insights Astrology community here on Facebook. And so you can join us live on Friday. Please do. And then don't forget, subscribe to the Mystick Physick Astrology YouTube channel. And if you click on that notification bell, you will never miss a broadcast. So thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.